I like cars that are super unique that you don't see often out on the roads. That's just kind of what I'm into. So today I'm going to give you 5 that are under £35,000 that I think are incredibly unique, very different, and proper head turners for the money. If you want to see this same video again under, let's say, 20k instead, hit the like button, 1,000 likes and I'll make that video. Subscribe as well if you're new here. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Recently, Lotus have been building some cars that are kind of outside of their normal, lightweight sports car vibes. The Electra, for example, and the Emira to an extent, aren't really like the stripped out Exiges and Elises of the past, with a greater focus on comfort and daily ability. This isn't actually anything new, as back in 2009 the Lotus Evora hit the roads as a car built to compete with more luxury sports cars like the Porsche 911. The base Evora comes with a 3.5 litre V6 engine, which is sourced from Toyota, putting out 276 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.8 seconds, so not incredibly fast, but what it lacks in out and out pace, it makes up for in some very pretty looks and a lot of comfort considering the market it's supposed to be competing in. Having been in one, for a Lotus they are very comfortable as a place to be, with a nice leather interior that still isn't too over the top, it's just not stripped out like you might expect of a Lotus. It's not quite as modern as the lovely interior you get on the Emira, but heading more along those lines. You can tell it's not your average Lotus 2 by the boot space, which is big enough for a set of golf clubs, and it's also cooled, so if you've got any snacks in your golf bag they won't get superheated by the engine. What's special about it though is that it was the first completely new car platform for the brand since the Elise arrived in 1995, as everything since then had pretty much been built on that platform. Today you barely ever see these out on the roads, but I think in the right spec they look incredibly good. They'll run you around £27,000 at the bottom end, and for our 35k limit you'll be looking at a 2012 model with around 50,000 miles on the clock. The major benefit of these is that Toyota engine block being very reliable, however parts for Lotuses can be quite expensive, so something to be aware of longer term. Next up we have a car that was built to commemorate and hark back to the old Alpine A110 sports car that took part in the World Rally Championship, of course, the new Alpine A110. It sort of sits in the same class as cars like the Audi TTS, but is a whole lot more exotic looking and rare to see out on the roads. It has the smallest engine on the list though, a 1.8 litre turbocharged inline 4, which puts out 248 brake horsepower, the least power on this list, but it still gets to 60 in 4.4 seconds, which is not bad at all. Considering how new it is, it's quite a light car, not super light like the Alpha 4C, which is often compared to, but then it's also slightly more luxurious than a 4C, with the nice leather interior and even simple things like power steering, which the 4C doesn't get. That's because though it is a sports car, it's also supposed to be good for grand touring, hence it literally comes with a GT spec, so I've never really understood the 4C comparisons. Instead, a better comparison would be the Porsche Cayman, Audi TT and Lotus Emira, all of which it is lighter than and more agile too. But altogether it doesn't really mean they're not still sporty. I think the exterior looks are obviously enough to get people to turn their heads, but on the interior they get Sebelt bucket seats which can get diamond stitched from factory, and all in a focused cockpit. It's received exceptional reviews for its handling dynamics and daily ability, plus it comes with a 7-speed automatic gearbox with paddle shifters, so you could legitimately use it as a city car with the opportunity to head out and enjoy it more on nicer roads on the weekends. It's just a shame the F1 team isn't doing too well right now. These are quite difficult generally to get for under our price range, but they do start at around the 33k mark, and you can get a 2018 model around 35,000 miles on the clock for that kind of money. They've generally been okay on reliability, but there was a recall for fuel pumps early on in their lives, which should have been sorted out for free by Alpine. On to one of my favourite shapes to have ever come out of Blackpool, the TVR T350, the baby brother to one of my all-time dream cars, the Sagaris. This came as both a coupe or Targa option and had its own baby brother, the Temora, and it's worth noting the Targa and coupe have different names, the T350T and T350C. Effectively, the Sagaris was based on the T350, the T350 was based on the Temora, but the evolutions between each car are pretty huge, and the T350 genuinely looks like a Sagaris without the telltale flary bits. It comes with a slightly smaller engine than the Sagaris though, a 3.6 litre inline 6, which makes 350 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.4 seconds, not bad for the oldest car on the list. I think this car has a completely timeless design. Honestly, honestly, I think if a brand brought out a car with this body shape today, but added some nice modern features like new infotainment and the rest, you could easily mistake it for being brand new. I even think cars like the F-Type look pretty similar to it despite being years newer. It's actually a very small car too, with shorter dimensions than the Mark III MX-5, and it's hugely stiff as well, ready to be taken on track from standard, particularly in coupe spec. That's because it literally arrived as a result of an exercise completed by TVR to make a new race series that would run alongside the Tuscan Challenge, which they built the T350 for and then realised it would make an excellent road car. What's crazy about these is that despite the car world generally agreeing that TVRs are super unreliable and terrifying for your wallet, the T350C is only increasing in price at the moment. Shortly after release back in 2008, these were available for around the 25k mark in very good condition, but now these start at around the 31k mark. They are quite rare though, so can be hard to come by in general, but for that kind of money you'll get yourself a 2005 example with 40k on the clock. They also have proper specialists and a loving car community around them, so though they can be killer, if you look after them well, you have the right people around you to support. So I hope you guys are enjoying this video. If you are, then do hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new. And let me know in the comments down below, are you like me? Do you care if your car is different to other people's, or would you rather just buy something that you liked? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you're one of the 10.1% of my audience that comes from the US, this next car might not be so unique, but here in the UK, the Chevrolet Corvette C6 isn't a car we come across often. In fact, it was never officially sold here by Chevrolet, hence you can only get into left-hand drive examples unless you find a company to convert it to right-hand drive. It has by far the largest engine on the list, a 6.2 litre LS3 V8, which puts out 430 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 4.2 seconds. Not bad for a car that was initially released back in 2005. This is the 6th generation Corvette, coming from a long line of pretty amazing American sports cars that offer you a slight taste of supercar ownership for a fraction of the price, which does sometimes present itself in poor build quality according to some owners. But the reason you have one of these in the UK is because A, you want something different, or B, you're super into American muscle, as it's obviously more muscle than it is supercar. Originally the C6 came with the 6 litre LS2 block instead, but the LS3 took over in 2008. Just putting it out there though, it's a very American car as it continues to have leaf springs and the likes. Basically it's got a big engine, it's fast, but it's not built to turn corners particularly well from factory. It's effectively a cruiser. You can also see a bit of the cheaper vibes on the interior, which is pretty plain and simple, but then having a manual gearbox attached to that V8 definitely helps make up for some of its downsides, and though you're more likely to find an automatic, the manual is available within our price range. Speaking of price range, this is the cheapest car on the list, starting at around the £24,000 mark, with 35k getting you into a 2010 model with around 35,000 miles on it. Cam chain tensioners are known to go, harmonic balancers have had issues, and valve guides can wear down quickly, but the LS3 is a pretty well known engine block at this point. The car taking the top spot is by far the biggest head turner on this list in my opinion, and so completely different to pretty much anything else you'll see out on the roads. It basically has to be classified as unique. It's the Ariel Atom. This is a car engineered specifically to be fast on track, so it has effectively nothing extra. No roof, no windows, very little bodywork, so an exposed chassis, and even the windscreen is an optional extra. The only parts that make this anything like the other cars on this list are the wheels and tyres, lights, mirrors and indicators. There are a bunch of engine options available with the Atom, but within our price range you'll be looking at the very well loved 2 litre inline 4 K20 Honda engine, which puts out 245 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 2.7 seconds, which is absolutely absurd, and entirely made possible by the fact that this car has a curb weight of just 612 kilograms. In fact, on release it was the third fastest accelerating car to 60 available, behind the Bugatti Veyron and Ultima GTR. Genuinely ridiculous. It's literally classed as an open wheeler sports car, which I find super interesting because as an open wheel track car it's significantly cheaper than the also very cool BAC Mono. If the Caterham is the poor man's Ariel Atom, then the Atom is the poor man's BAC in my head. But that doesn't mean it's not an absolutely unreal package, with the suspension tuned to be Lotus-esque, derived from literal single-seater racing, and if like me you like taking your car on track and you don't care about practicality and this is your price range, just get one of these. They're listed anywhere from around the 30k mark, and for 5k more than that you'll be looking at a 2014 model with around 15,000 miles on the clock. They're also known to be hugely reliable. The lightweight and the well-known K20 block plus the ultra simplicity of the package overall makes it a very dependable car. They're likely to be track used however, so do expect to run and maintain them as such in future too. So there you have it, 5 super unique cars that you can buy for under 35k. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do hit the like button and subscribe as well if you're new, Huge thanks to the patrons for their support. You guys are all for watching, and click on screen right now to see a bunch of very cool cars for the money too.